Good evening, race fans, and welcome to the Bojo's Quick Shifts at Sonoma. Here on the Elite Racing Network, my name is David Westergreen. I am joined in the booth tonight by our producer, David Huckleberry, and my two co-announcers, Zach Evans and James Watson, to turn right and left on these, I think we'll call them 11 corners at the beautiful Sonoma Raceway in Sonoma, California. James, I know you're from this area, so I'll let you open it up here. I know you've been to this racetrack. You've got some experience here. What's your favorite part about Sonoma Raceway?
My favorite part of Sonoma is just the sheer absurdity of this track. It's not a big track. It's only 2 miles in length, the NASCAR shoot version. But there's so much elevation change, and it's nowhere near, like, you can never really get a good idea on how crazy the elevation change is unless you're actually standing there and looking down at the exit of the carousel. So I'm looking forward to seeing everyone try to make it through the motherland. Obviously, we're not using the carousel this time around, but trying to see everyone try to survive and get through this phenomenal race circuit.
I agree with you. This is one of my favorite road course tracks. Zach, to bring you in here, we got the one stage. Obviously, what do you think the drivers are going to target in terms of their strategy today? Because we do have a stage break with a yellow flag at lap 15.
Well, I think you got to have a couple of plans. Obviously, most drivers are going to take advantage of that stage break. Some might, if they're not in contention for stage points, undercut it like we see in the real world, pit before the pit entrance closes and try to get that track position when everybody else pits under the caution. After that, I think you have to have a number in mind if we do go green from the end of the first stage onward as to when you want to get on pit road, how you want to split that up. But then you also have to have the fuel number of how long can I go on fuel in case you get that caution, because as we saw at Zandvoort, sometimes that stage caution can set up a rash of cautions as well.
Yeah, it sure can, right? And that's definitely a part to take in. This racetrack's going to only have, I think, a couple of real passing zones for these guys. So, James, and I'll let both of you actually answer this one because I know you both raced here before. But what's your biggest problem corner here at Sonoma? And then I'll see if Dave can give us like the vantage point of those corners. But James, what do you think is more scary here, like turn 7 or turn 11?
Honestly, I think the scariest corner is actually turn 10. It's a very high speed right hander. You don't really have much space to work with on the exit. So if you don't nail it correctly, you're going to slide off into the gravel. And it's preceding arguably the biggest passing zone on the track at turn 11. So if you mess up that corner in any way, you are likely going to get dive bombed and lose a position or two.
And I will say, watching some of these qualifying laps, turn 10 has been a problem for a lot of these drivers as they are pushing the limit, trying to set that fast time in this qualifying session. It's a tightrope walk, carrying as much speed through turn 10 to give yourself the run down to turn 11 and set up those passes. But if you push it too far, you get those left side tires off on the grass, and it's game over.
Yeah, I think turn 11's always been my biggest weak point, but I think you guys are absolutely right with regarding the setup of turn 10 into turn 11. And, maybe that's part of why I always struggled with turn 11 was I never was getting turn 10 right here at Sonoma. So with that, as qualifying's wrapping up, obviously we have the scoring pylon on our ends. You guys might not, we'll start with you, Dave. Who's your pick for tonight's race? And I'll go ahead and take Ethan Stanley off the board. Nobody can take Ethan Stanley as the pick.
Oh, nobody can take Ethan.
Dave's just gonna take Ethan, and then we won't get to pick him anyway. So no, but, aside from Ethan, who has dominated the road courses here in Elite, who's the guy who can maybe take it away from him? And we'll start with Dave.
I'll probably go with Tooker then. That'd be my second choice.
Who you got, Zach?
Give me RC Enerson.
RC. James?
I'm going to go ahead and give my curse to Blake Reynolds once again.
I don't know that Blake's here tonight, but...
Wow, that's a good curse. You kept him out of the track.
Yep, but
Wait, he's not-
James Kirsten,
wait.
he's not here.
He's not here? How in the world is he not here?
He
He's
locked in
not
last
here.
week.
Yep, locked in and didn't want to run a Sonoma race with us. I'll give you
Wow, I
one
feel like
more
such an idiot.
go, James.
Okay, I'm going to pick Tyler Fody. I did not expect Blake to not be here.
My guy will be Gavin Hibbs to take it over from Ethan Stanley should something happen to that 91 car tonight. But I think everybody's pick, given that first pick, would be driver 91. He's been extremely strong at the road courses, dominant to the point of impressing even the professional drivers out here. So currently on pole, and qualifying is wrapping up right now. So I'll go ahead and announce Ethan Stanley as the 4D Raceware Pole Award winner here for the Bojo's Quick Shifts at Sonoma. The 91 car will start from the pole once again. I believe that's the fourth time this season. I could be wrong on my count. RC Anderson will start alongside him in the outside of the front row. David Tucker and Tyler Fody will go from row 2 here at Sonoma. Jonathan Cutlip and Chad Frankenfield will roll off in row 3, with Gavin Hibbs and Justin Wadsworth rolling off in row 4. Matthew Weeks and Ryan Gavel will go in row 5 and make up your top 10. Corey Abbott and Seth Rawls will make up the first dozen in row 6.
On the 7th row, it is Ryan Schold and Gerald Campbell. Starting 15th, Leighton Norgard and Michael Hosack will roll off from the 16th position. Harrison Talon starting 17th. Good qualifying run for him. Garrison Hogan lines up 18th. Ray Bracey, sponsor of the race, will start from the 19th position. And Paul Mikolajczyk will roll off 20th. 21st going to Ethan Burrell. Justin Fortner, 22nd. Chris Wright, 23rd. Ty McIntosh, 24th.
Starting 25th will be Jesse Racimus with Gavin Higgins alongside him in row 13. Justin Vandermarl and Trey Holmes will roll off 27th and 28th, with Scott Crump and Brent Jones there in row 15. Gilberto Javier Gomera and Josh Adams rolling off in row 16. Michael Goodman and Mark Robilis, row 17. And those are the final drivers that took a qualifying lap. Tate Lytle and Carlos Acosta did not put down qualifying laps. They will start out the back. I would look for Tate Lytle to maybe make some moves in this race. I know he was fairly close to being able to make it to the event tonight, but he will be here. I did see him load in, so we'll see what Tate Lytle can do from the very back of the field.
Tate Lytle, a former Sonoma winner here in the Belly Up Sports Cup Series. That came in 2021B. Of course, the last time we came here, you'll never believe it, David, Ethan Stanley won. That was his first Elite Cup Series road course win. He's proceeded to win 6 more since then, including the last 4. So you could say this is kind of the scene of the crime, if you will, when it comes to road course racing in this series.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the Ethan Stanley dominance, and if you're new here, right? I mean, even if you're a returning driver, this is just something we're going to continue to follow. This is what you said, his 4th consecutive. He's on 4 consecutive road course racing wins, going for 5. That's, I'm certain, a record, at least in the Belly Up Sports Cup Series. And then, on top of that, he's also been one of the strongest drivers this season. He already has 2 wins on the year, and with his main competitor for the regular season championship out tonight, that will, I think, extend Ethan Stanley's stranglehold on the top of the points, and it would probably give him that points lead over Blake Reynolds here, because Reynolds has not started the race tonight. I'm sure we'll be sure to take you guys through this Sonoma racetrack. We are pretty intimately familiar with this place. A lot of us have grown up watching this layout, and James mentioned the carousel. There's been a couple of different iterations of this track in the NASCAR Cup Series over the last couple of seasons, but we are running that short chute where it goes from turn 4 down to turn 7 and skipping the carousel. The good version, in my opinion, James. I know James thinks otherwise, but they'll roll through the S's down here to turn 10. This was their trouble corners, Zach's and James's trouble corner, and it sets up the hairpinned corner of turn 11, where we will set these guys loose for 63 laps. We'll have a caution at lap 15 for stage 1. Ethan Stanley does have control of the race. He will have to start on green here, but as he rolls off turn 11, Stanley waits for the green light from Barney the Flagman. And we are racing in the Bojo's quick shifts at Sonoma. Ethan Stanley, David Tucker, RC Anderson off in towards turn 1. Up that huge elevation change. RC's already out of shape and off the track.
Oh,
Hang on, Jerry Nadeau.
So that I think Jamie McMurray did that one year from the front row too, didn't he?
I
yep.
believe you're right.
I think it was on the outside on the exit
Yep.
of turn 2.
Yeah, I think a couple of different guys have done that from the front row. RC Anderson will have to settle back into the field pretty significantly. He's outside the top 10 now, as Ethan Stanley leads this field already. Whatever advantage he gains will be wiped out at lap 15 by that caution. So fear not, Ethan Stanley will have a chance to get overtaken by some of these guys behind as David Tucker settles out into second with Tyler Fody in third. Chad Frankenfield up into fourth with Jonathan Cutlip there in fifth behind. I didn't see any incidents by these guys. I think maybe Ethan Burrell and Scott Crump got together, actually.
Oh, here we go. We're going to look at the Rebillis Photography Replay Machine. Oh, man. All kinds of out of shape.
Oh.
That's got to be a huge
Oh.
hit on the
Oh.
left front. And Brent Jones collected as well.
Yeah, that is a big incident. Good gracious.
Scott Crump taking the front bumper off of that Lake Norman Motorsport Chevrolet. He has already come down pit road. Brent Jones also with big damage in the 89 car, nowhere to go. Ethan Burrell started this race from pit road, which is why I saw him back there, but he is now dead last in the field despite having a 21st place qualifying effort.
And there you can see the damage on Brent Jones's cars. He's got to let Ethan Burrell by here.
Yeah, track position is vitally important at these road courses, but I would not count Ethan Burrell out for a good finish tonight.
No, for sure. There's lots of time for him to work his way through the field and pick up those spots, especially when you have the kind of track record Ethan Burrell has.
Yeah, track position is great, but superior pace is even greater.
I'll never forget when I was still competing in the Belly Up Sports Cup Series, and I use the term competing loosely. We went to Suzuka one season. For some reason, I don't remember the why, but RC Anderson had to start at the rear of the field. I had qualified like 17th, and I was about tickled pink. We were going through the S's on the first lap, and RC was taking me 3 wide to crack the top 15. Some people are just different.
Yeah,
Yep.
built different.
And that's one guy that can definitely get it done. Obviously, he also struggled in the opening laps of this race. Back to 12th is RC Anderson. And let's go on board through a lap of Sonoma with Ethan Stanley right here and watch driver 91 roll through the gears here down the S's. James, why don't you take me through your thought process while you're running a next gen at Sonoma?
So I take a more unique approach to a lot of the corners here. I try to do like a bit of a late turn in to really kind of maximize my drive off of the corner. Like you'll see me kind of enter in a little higher, and that allows me to get a good run on the exit of all the S's without really messing up my line or my speed through. And I think that's especially necessary in this car because I've mentioned it multiple times. It's more like, it always feels like a heavier Indy car with fenders to me. So I tend to use a lot of the same philosophies that I use when I'm driving the IR18 and apply it to this car. And so it tends to like a lot of these more kind of late turn-ins than your typical stock car. And even still, I still try to apply that to like the Xfinity and the truck around here, and that always really seems to help get me a little extra tense over the guys around me.
So I guess my question to you would be, is Ethan Stanley doing that right now? Is he arcing it kind of later into the corners like you would?
Looks to me, yeah. He's turning in a little earlier than what I would.
It's off the track right there.
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe that's my problem on why I'm nowhere near Ethan Stanley's pace. But because, yeah, clearly his lines are working real well for him.
Mhm.
Already well out to the lead of everybody else.
2.5 second gap from Ethan Stanley back to David Tooker as we are on board with Stanley at the moment here, working lap 5 of 63 at this winding 2-mile track. I did have my eye on Ethan RC Enerson in turn 11 last time through. Ryan Schuld and Matthew Weeks got together in front of him, and he ultimately bypassed both of those drivers. He is back up into the top 10 after that first lap excursion from the outside of the front row. We'll see if Dave can maybe find that incident. This is a different incident.
No, this is different. This is Carlos Acosta. Looks like going up the hill towards, I guess it'd be 3A. And he is off the track here, but otherwise keeps it all together and carries on towards 4A.
You got 4A going to straight to turn 7 there. There's Tate Lytle.
The corner numbering here can be pretty confusing because of the carousel being originally the only layout of this track. So because of that, it gets a little goofy at times.
Tate Lytle goes around Chris Wright, and I think you're correct there, James. I never did understand when I was growing up. My first year was 2001. It was, I think Robbie Gordon almost won the race in the 7 car and then gave it away fighting with Kevin Harvick. And, in that race, obviously, it's the very first road course race I would have ever seen. And this track's always had a special place in my heart. But this layout in particular, because of that short shoot where those guys, let's follow Justin Vandermarl and Ray Bracey right here because they're coming up on this part of the track that I do feel like is probably my favorite part of any road course track. It's just the way it looks, especially in real life when these cars go barreling. No, Ray.
Hey, you can't park there.
Not in the quick shifts. So at Sonoma, ruined my point and everything.
He wanted to take the carousel is the problem.
Right. Yeah, that's right about where you make that turn in for the carousel.
Yeah. Well, it's a little early. You don't want to hit the tire barrier on the way in, but yes.
No. You don't want to hit the tire barrier at all. I
I understand why the car wanted to go in that direction. He's got that Ricky Rudd throwback from when Ricky was dominating the road courses in that Quaker State car in the late 80s. So that's just the natural inclination of that machine.
Yep. We'll see if we can go back and get it. But yeah, unfortunate for the race sponsor here, back down to 27th spot after a slight spin. Here's maybe another incident going up this big elevation change from turn 2 to turn 3. Tate Lytle, a little bit out of shape, off the track, right, following the tire tracks. Oh, he was following right behind Ray Bracey. It was off right there, but Tate ends up being able to skirt through unscathed.
He wanted to make sure he was going to be on quick shifts for this episode. That's why he got close.
Yep.
So there's Brent Jones going off in turn 10. Turn 3A is very similar in how it can be challenging in the same way as turn 10, where you're trying to push the limit. The difference with 3A is it's basically a blind corner. Mm-hmm. So you're aiming for an apex you really can't see. Oh, hang on to it, Tate. No, that's a separate incident.
Maybe we can go on board with somebody approaching that corner and show you guys what we mean once we get through the replays. The replay backlog here is Carlos Acosta did it just about. Look, he followed right in the tire tracks of Tate Lytle.
Yeah.
So a bunch of slight spins, all minor contact, nothing major. We finally get to watch some guys roll down through this corner. It's this section right here that Wadsworth is going through. When these cars jump out over that curb and get real close to that wall, and there's a camera shot that I don't know if it's around anymore, but the camera shot that's right on that wall of the cars driving by and just about hitting it. That's one of my all-time favorite racing camera shots, where those guys go out near. They look like they're about to drive off the track and into the wall, and then they come back on the track and drive down that short chute. And barrel it in there 3 wide, making passes. That's genuinely one of my favorite parts of road course auto racing.
Yeah, like it's so cool watching these big heavy beasts just monster truck over that curve. And like every time you see that camera angle, you're convinced that they're just gonna absolutely demolish that wall, and they never do.
Yep.
It's always amazing to me how no one ever wads it up in that specific part of the track like that.
Through turn 1 here, Wadsworth is fighting against his teammate Ryan Gable right here. They are indeed side by side, so you'll see Wadsworth's a bit out of line here, but it's because he's fighting for position right now, just in front of Gavin Hibbs, and I probably wouldn't have picked Gavin Hibbs if I'd known he was driving a Cincinnati Reds car. Oh, Gable sideways there. I don't know if there was contact between the 95 and 01. Gable rights it just behind the 95, and he'll continue on. No harm, no foul. There's also RC Anderson's jumping by Seth Rawls in turn 9, and RC's waiting for this caution. I think once that 50 car gets some tires on it, he could be a challenger given his single lap pace in qualifying. Just that start of the race obviously set him back. He's 15 seconds behind race leader Ethan Stanley, but he's running quick lap times. He's making up positions. You mentioned, I think already, we want to have better pace. In this, track position is a little less important, but it's really important if you're trying to beat Ethan Stanley.
There's Josh Adams going off in turn 3A as well.
Josh Adams going off the track on a road course? Nah.
And this has got to be Mark Rebellis making his own appearance on the replay machine. His trouble started before he ever made it to turn 3 there.
Yeah. Mark was having a time in the pre-race practice session. He was doing a really good job playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater with that next-gen car, though.
You'll have to keep an eye on Mark at the end of this race, see if he tries that out coming across the finish line, but... Here comes Ethan Stanley just behind these guys. To give you an idea of the pace Ethan Stanley is setting, Mark Robilis, though in 33rd place, is going a lap down in 10 laps here at Sonoma. Brent Jones just in front of him. Both of them have had some excursions, some off-track excursions today. Brent obviously running into Scott on the opening lap. Nothing he could really do about that, but Stanley already encountering lap traffic, just setting a blistering pace here in the first 15.
Yeah, it's just wild the dominance that Ethan Stanley has and the pace on a road course. Like it feels like watching, Gordon in his heyday around Sonoma and Watkins Glen and Chase Elliott during the Gen 6 era of just absolutely unbeatable when you're having to turn left and right.
It makes the broadcast almost a little boring on our end, right? Because we would love a battle for the lead, and we've not been without a lack of that this season. I think this has been one of the most competitive seasons in the Elite Cup Series history, but these road courses tend to be very predictable from a race result perspective. Like, we know who's going to be near the front of the field, and we know that this car is probably going to win. It's a pretty solid bet. It's been 4 consecutive races in this series that Ethan Stanley has won on these types of tracks. While boring from that perspective, we are going to go out of our way to find things that are interesting. That's why we take care to discuss each of these types of tracks, and each road course is always very unique and very different. We also are going to take care to measure on those drivers that have good runs at these road courses. And right now, one of my, watching some of these guys that are having good runs, trying to pick some of them out through the crowd, the guy who's moved up the most positions so far, Gavin Higgins, rookie driver, number 13, in the all-black car. He is up 8 spots from 26th starting position. He's up to 18th right now, and having a good little run for a guy who he was going to have a top 10 finish before that last lap wreck last week, but unfortunately that got kind of ripped away from him late.
Yeah, definitely a lot of carnage last week at Kern County for anyone who missed it. Oh! Speaking of which, Britt Jones just went off in turn 10 and took a pretty good shot on the left front of the number 89. That's probably going to bring him to pit road here.
You can see him in the background of our shot here, and we'll get the replay. He's got the front fender dangling off this 89 car. This is your trouble corner, guys. This is what you were talking about perfectly.
Yep. Yeah, it can go wrong so easily there. Like, you think you have it nailed, and you immediately find out, nope, I got the wall nailed. And there's nothing you can do when you're going off, because it's such a high-speed corner and you're sliding out so much that it's not always easy to tell right off the bat if you're going to be in trouble. Because sometimes it'll feel like where you're going to throw the car off into the grass, but you actually nail it perfectly. So you're just trying to set it up as best as you can and just pray that you're going to keep it on the tarmac.
Race Control has closed the pit entrance here. We got to the 2 laps to go mark. Pit drivers to pit of note: RC Anderson, Jesse Racimus. But not race leader Ethan Stanley, not second and third place drivers Tyler Fody and David Tooker. They are currently battling side by side for that second spot as we come up on 2 laps to go for that stage end. And Fody is underneath David Tooker here going into turn 1, but Tooker's going to have that preferred lane through turn 2.
And Tooker's got to be able to put the power down coming out of turn 2, but so does Fody. That puts him on the inside for 3 if he can get enough position. No, Tooker hangs tough. So they're got to be side by side coming out of 3A.
Good battle here, though. Tyler Fody goes around the outside of David Tooker. He completes the pass in that red number 40, and I have to draw attention to it. Tyler Fody, for pretty consecutively the last 4 or so seasons, has been in a purple car. But JD Designs, that's just Jonathan Cutlip, currently running in the 5th position, has painted Fody a slew of schemes this year that he plans to deploy, and he's broken out the red scheme. And I can't remember Tyler Fody ever running a red scheme, but car looks good.
Yeah, it's got that nice kind of classic car feel, and it's perfect for a track like Sonoma. You know, right here in the heart of wine country, there's a lot of big money folks out there with some unbelievably beautiful rides from some would argue the glory days of the automotive industry. So, and I've been able to go to a few kind of classic car meets around here, and so it's just kind of giving me that old school vibe, and it just absolutely fits.
That's pretty sweet. And yeah, it gives me kind of a Dale Jr., type of vibe to it, right? The early 2000s, very simplistic design, but very iconic. It's got a good look. But it's going to run second in this stage, unfortunately. Ethan Stanley has about a 10-second lead on this 40 car. And while Lake Norman Motorsports will sweep the top 2 positions in this stage, probably, barring any shenanigans there for second, it will be Ethan Stanley to take home this first stage. And he will pit for tires and try and figure out what his pit strategy is for the second half. But one more corner for Ethan Stanley here through turn 11. That hairpin turn down to the bottom goes Stanley, and he will drive out of turn 11, come down to the start finish line and claim a stage win. The yellow flag has been deployed by Race Control to allow Stanley to immediately get picked up by the pace car. And that will lock our stage down. The results are there on the left side of your screen. We will go ahead and jump to our commercial break so that we can bring you this restart as soon as possible. So everybody stay tuned, and we will be right back after these breaks.
Since 2010, race fans have had one burning question. When will the Xfinity Series return to Worldwide Technology Raceway? You asked. NASCAR delivered. On Saturday, September 6, 2025, the magic is back. The track that launched the legendary careers of Harvick, Busch, Keselowski, Edwards, and Earnhardt Jr. is now ready to write that next chapter. we're going to introduce you to a new crop of future champions and Hall of Famers. And in the process, we'll create more of the greatest moments in racing history. NASCAR Weekend 2025, the NASCAR Cup Series Championship Playoffs, the Confluence Music Festival, and now 250 miles of the NASCAR Xfinity Series. 2 incredible races, 1 challenging track, a 3-day party of epic proportions. Go to www.raceway.com and lock in your weekend racing and camping packages for as little as $20 down.
Have you ever just forgot to hold the brakes during a wreck? Are they just not able to pronounce your name in a race?
Paul Mikolajczyk.
Have you ever been wrecked by Chad? Hi, I'm Ray Bracey, and I'm here to share with you quick shifts. Watch all the highlights, lowlights, and other shenanigans in the top racing leagues, such as the Elite Racing League, but don't just take my word for it.
Before Quick Shifts, I was depressed. I wasn't able to relive my favorite moments from each race. Now with Quick Shifts, I can go out there and listen to all my favorite banter from the race while seeing all the crashes and good racing once again.
I don't remember life before Quick Shifts. I had to listen to Cameron Proke and Ty Mac and Cheese recap Oscar every week in the 3-Wide TV booth, but now, thanks to Quick Shifts, I actually enjoy my Oscar recaps.
So try quick shifts. You suffered through it one time, why not suffer through it again?
Side effects of quick shifts include constipation, diarrhea, dizziness, dry mouth, abnormal heart rhythms, internal bleeding, numb tongue, unfiltered honesty, loud hiccups, laughing uncontrollably, mandatory dancing, midnight munchies, blue urine, red urine, no urine, and many more.
To win the blue egg, you're always in the pole position, leading a brand toward victory lane. Don't spin your wheels, accelerate success with blue egg, fueling small businesses to win big. Fueling big to win big. Blue egg, fueling small businesses to win big. Ooh, ooh, big. To win big, you're always in the pole position, leading your brand toward victory lane. Don't spin your wheels, accelerate success with blue egg, fueling small businesses to win big. Ooh, win big.
Welcome back to the Bojo's Quick Shifts at Sonoma. Ethan Stanley did not pit at this caution break. He will likely pit during this next upcoming stint. We are 1 to green, going through the S's. I would say let's go ahead and take care of our ad reads here before we finish off what is hopefully the only caution flag of this race. So, Dave, do you have any, or do you want Zach to start?
Yeah, I have the race sponsor, actually the series sponsor, Belly Up Sports. The Internet Sports Bar, sports commentary via podcasts, forums, and articles on topics ranging to nearly every sport. Not your usual sports site. Check them out on X or bellyupsports.com. Zach, I believe you have a race sponsor one.
Yes. Today's sponsor is Quick Shifts, presented by Bojo. Go to Bojo Racing on YouTube to watch this race's recap.
I pasted it. There you go.
And that's right. Enjoy all the highs, lows of today's race. That's the end of the ad read. This is just me speaking now. I love the South Carolina Gamecocks down with Clemson. Again, that's my own opinion. Back to you, Zach.
And we are back underway here at Sonoma, hitting the post. I mean, we are professionals here, let me tell you. Ethan Stanley out front. It's going to be a battle for second between Justin Wadsworth and Gavin Hibbs.
Chad just got spun by Cutlip.
Oh, no. Hang
Cutlip's
on.
way off the track to the right. Jonathan Cutlip's going to lose a ton of spots here, but he's rejoining mid-pack. Oh, they're spinning now. It's Hosack around. Oh, Vandermarl also taken out in this. Man. No caution from William White. He's elected that this race will stay green. A couple of solo spins. Hosack just got loose.
This is what the Gamecocks looked like at that baseball game I went to last night.
That's right. Oh, and there is the caution from William White. Did we get another incident, or was that to clean things up there in turn 2? Tyler Fode's losing spots. That may be another incident.
That was after the caution, though. I had an eye on that one. He lost in the S's after the caution came out. So I'm not sure if the call... I'm not sure.
The Watson curse is real.
Yeah, there goes Fode. Sideways in the S's. I didn't see anything else besides the couple of spins we saw there in turn 2. See if there's anything else. Here was the Vandermarl incident, and this was in reaction, I think, to him trying to get out of the way of Michael Hosack. He ends up pinching off Chris Wright, gets into Ray Bracey, gets into Josh Adams. But, I mean, yeah, that wasn't really a caution, I didn't think. And then let's see what happens down here towards turn 7 for Vandermarl. That didn't seem like anything. Here's the incident between Chad Frankenfield and Jonathan Cutlip.
Race control assigning the tally to the 24.
Okay. So it was just a somewhat late call. I felt like we were done. But
well, they do have it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You know, I think it's fine. I think throwing a yellow is okay. I think that would probably warrant a yellow in real world racing. You had a car sideways in front of the whole field. That they all got through was somewhat irrelevant. Down pit road comes R.C. Enerson and Ethan Burrell.
Now, here's an interesting little note. The fuel window numbers I heard were between 40 and 42. So these cars that are pitting now, definitely, maybe, possibly, could make it from here. Definitely, maybe, possibly.
Ethan Burrell went past his box. That's not going to help things. But yeah, I think if R.C. Anderson he also went fuel only, did R.C. Anderson. I think 50 car at the very least is not going to pit again in this race. That's going to gain him spots down the road. I do not believe that will be enough to clear past Ethan Stanley. I think that's going to be very difficult to maintain. Burrell coming around that corner, that's his pit stall was like the very first.
He's not used to qualifying that far back.
So, yeah, that's a tough spot for Ethan Burrell. But so this won't be a race winning move for R.C. Anderson. It's not like at this racetrack, it's not like a mile and a half track or even a short track where if you stay out too long, you won't be able to make the ground up in time in a race of this distance, right? Ethan Stanley will gain a ton of time early in the run because Anderson will be fighting in traffic, not able to set the clean lap times that Stanley will. And then once we go green for a while, Stanley can come down pit road and then make that time back up on R.C. Anderson. fairly quickly. He may even be able to gap Anderson to the point of being able to pit and get off pit road without losing the lead. So as we come to 1 to green, that'll be the battle that we watch for. Tyler Fode coming down pit road. I think he's also going to adopt that strategy, though he will be behind everyone who pitted on that first lap. Any, what do we think, guys? I mean, is there a chance that Stanley doesn't make up all the ground there on the early part of this run and is able to hold off the RC Anderson, or can those cars that can stay out gain on him here and potentially put an end to this winning streak?
I think the catch-22 here is how much traffic Anderson and that group of cars runs into.
Yeah, passing isn't impossible, but it's not easy here, especially with this car. We've seen it in real life a lot. It takes a lot to be able to make passes on someone just because of the level of grip you have. So it might take him a while to kind of get up through the traffic and really allow that strategy to work. So he might lack the time because of all the time wasted getting through traffic. So it's perhaps, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's where we have to be, is perhaps he is going to be 19th on this restart as RC Anderson, the cars that we believe can make it to the end on fuel. That'll be Anderson, Weeks, Lytle, Holmes, Cutlip, Fode, Burrell, Hosack, Norgard, Vandermarl, Bracey, Rabilis, Talon, the last cars on the lead lap. But I believe all of those cars can go to the end without pitting. Pace car is off. We will restart the Bojo's quick shifts at Sonoma. Ethan Stanley alongside Gavin Hibbs has taken over second spot. The green flag is out. Stanley on the loud pedal with Hibbs working to his outside, and Stanley will clear easily the driver of that 95 car, and it'll leave Hibbs and Wadsworth fighting for second, and I believe Gavin Hibbs is going to get that spot. Start looked pretty orderly that time. Didn't see any cars spinning out. Seemed like everyone was minding their manners.
As you say that, they're 3 wide.
Well, RC Anderson just took Kachow 3 wide, but they've still made it through this first set of corners. Several trouble spots without causing that yellow. Here's turn 7. This is one of those turns very easily could turn into a junkyard, but it's like everybody's able to make it through this time through.
Oh, Ryan Schultz around in the S's.
He spins and gets going pretty quickly. That should not draw a yellow flag. Go back and take a look and see what happened to Ryan Schuld. Pass being made for the 5th position. Chad Frankenfield going around Paul Mikolajczyk as we speak. There's Schuld. I think he did just about exactly what Tyler Fode did. Side by side through the S's.
Yeah, I don't know if he got out of shape, or if there may have even been some net code there with Gerald Campbell as they were running side by side. It's hard to tell.
Schuld drops back. Michael Hosack sideways behind him, and Hosack's gonna go for a trip to what's over this way, James? The Redwoods?
No, Redwoods are a bit of a ways away. Nah, he's gonna go wine tasting and check out some of the vineyards. It's lovely, lovely time to be a tourist in these parts.
Gerald Campbell is pointed the wrong way exiting turn 4.
It's not drawn a yellow from race control just yet. There goes Gerald. But he's off the track here. Everybody's able to maintain the lane.
I think he was. Yeah, I was about to say. I think he did the old bootlegger U-turn over here in the grass to keep us green here, and it is much appreciated.
Yep, good work by Gerald Campbell to stay out of everybody's way once he ended up losing that car, and Donald will have to find his way back towards the front. Tyler Fode underneath Matthew Weeks, working his way back forward here. I do want to note, Gavin Hibbs has not let Ethan Stanley get away early in this run. Now, I do want to preface this by saying it is entirely possible that Ethan Stanley is playing with his food, because we have seen Ethan pull away to massive margins very quickly in these races. But Gavin Hibbs has shown a propensity to be competitive in this next-gen car. I think back to Mid-Ohio last year when he was very close to taking a win away from Ethan Stanley. I believe he was leading with 2 laps to go, holding Ethan Stanley back when ultimately a little bit of contact and Hibbs wound up, I want to say, finishing 6th or 7th in that race. But Stanley's, not able to pull away from Hibbs just yet. That Cincinnati Reds number 95 is holding Ethan Stanley accountable right now.
Riding on board with Gavin Hibbs through turn 11 right now. You see Ethan Stanley in front of him. We'll get a look this time by. Ethan Stanley turns in a 15.354. Gavin Hibbs 15.359. So virtually identical lap times for those two drivers.
Yeah, that's impressive work by Gavin Hibbs. We talked all race long about just how unbeatable Ethan Stanley is, and like I picked him in the pre-race. There was one guy I felt like could run with this 91 car. It's Gavin Hibbs. He's just shown if he can get the track position, he can go up here and race with the big dogs at these road courses, and he's doing that. I do want to note, you mentioned, Zach, at one point today, R.C. Anderson was able to fly through the traffic. He's up to 11th. And while he's still 12 seconds behind the lead, you'll note there's a pretty sizable gap between him and anybody else who came down pit road and took fuel and is going to be able to make it to the end here.
He's done the hard part, right? He's gotten out of thick of it. He's avoided any potential carnage. Now he just has to get those lap times and manage his fuel number. Because like I say, I think he could probably make it from here to the end as we see an issue for Gilberto Javier Gomera.
Gilly goes sliding off the track in turn 3. And, oh boy, it's Gerald again. Oh!
Ooh.
Oh, and Michael Hossack again.
We'll take another look at this one. A little bit of a door contact, and then, Why don't you take that one, Zach?
I don't think I will. Gerald Campbell has left the session. That's the drag strip. That's the shutdown area of the drag strip.
Gerald doing the
Gerald
reverse,
figuring it.
Yeah, he's doing the reverse Tanner Gray. He's going from NASCAR to the NHRA.
I am sorry to Gerald that we found that one and went through it. That is a
no. That was definitely. I thought we were just gonna see what happened to lead to him leaving the. No, I think.
Yeah.
He did about everything but the rallycross layout there. Who's that on pit road? Is that
first
Wadsworth?
pitter? Justin Wadsworth heads down pit road here, lap 28. So Wadsworth obviously believes he can make it the rest of the way, but
oh, for sure.
Pitting at this point, obviously race control's probably not going to throw a yellow, so I think Wadsworth's identified this as a good time to come down pit road and end up with some clean laps. But yeah, this is tough because at this point it's like, why wouldn't you have just come down that second time with your teammate Tyler Fode? Because I think Fode's going to wind up well ahead of Justin Wadsworth right here.
I don't see any message.
Yeah, I don't think he did get DQ'd for that.
If he got DQ'd, he would have been like teleported. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he would have been insta gone. So.
Yep. So,
He
Tough
DQ'd
break.
himself.
Yeah. Gerald
It
just
reminds
had
me
enough.
reminds me of Kimi Räikkönen at Brazil in 2012, where Kimi went off, got onto an access road that led to a completely different part of the circuit, and he had to pull a U-turn and drive back off the track in one of the more amusing mistakes in Formula One history.
Ooh. Okay, we're all good here, but we had the contact and immediate apology from Matthew Weeks. He got in a little too hot into turn 11, just gave a little bumper tag to Ty McIntosh into 35. No harm. Everybody kept going. There's a tally, and that's the second one for Michael
Wow.
Hossack. So
So Hossack, yep.
Yeah, that's an evening for the car 24.
And we kind of mentioned it, but it felt like I don't know that there was any. I'm not gonna, we've had too much of discussing intentional wreck potential here in the Elite Racing League, so I'm not gonna even broach that topic necessarily, other than it hit my mind. But with that tally ruling, it feels like Hossack just, he went to avoid that wall outcrop that we talked about earlier, and in so doing, he just didn't have room.
Yeah.
Wall too wide.
It's hard to. I want to say that's what happened. It certainly is not a pretty looking situation, but I'm hesitant to say it was that. What we got going on here behind Fody? That was Chris Wright and Ethan Burrell.
Yep. Wright ends up still in front of Burrell. Matthew Weeks went around. Ty McIntosh just behind this group. This is kind of about the closest group on track right now. All these guys are stacked up pretty close. Also, there's a change for the 5th spot. Ryan Gable going around Seth Rawls into turn 7. 0-1 Huck's machine. Able to move past the Shifty Sports Toyota of Rawls. Tell you what, Seth Rawls is becoming a pretty good little road racer. He's had some really good finishes at pretty much every single one of the last couple of road courses we've been to, and he's a pretty regular threat for a top 10 finish at these places.
Yeah, to be running where he's running, that takes a lot of skill. Like, you don't kind of back into running, P5, P6 on a road course in this league. So it's a really impressive run by Seth. The risk of another commentator's curse.
Oh, Tate Lytle got into Chris Wright through turn 11, just about spun out the driver of the 9. That'll open the door for Matthew Weeks, opens the door for Scott Crump. I think a little bit of a late move by Tate Lytle, but Chris is a little bit slower as well, dealing with some illnesses, and Wright wasn't particularly feeling up to the race tonight, so just trying to keep it clean out there, get that 9 car some points. Chris Wright, though, he's probably immediately a little bit out under the collar after that one.
Oh, I'm sure. And now
Tate Lytle's in the wall in front of him.
Oh. Well, we've talked about that wall and how it just jumps out at you.
Let's take a look. I think it's Paul Mikolajczyk heading down pit road.
It is. He is pitting from a top 10 position in the running order here.
Well, Tate did get a piece of that outcrop wall and kind of glued to it. Lost a spot to Matthew Weeks. That's how those guys are running there. Mikolajczyk, the one down pit road, as we mentioned. It's of our belief that this group right here, the Burrell, Weeks, Lytle group, can make it to the end on fuel. They are chasing the cars of R.C. Anderson, Jonathan Cutlip, and Tyler Fody, however. Anderson in 7th. This is the lead car that can make it on fuel. Here's another car that can definitely make it on fuel. Paul Mikolajczyk, though he is well down the order now, back in 24th place.
And we'll get a better idea as we go here where those cars are cycling in as we get more and more of these pit stops. I think it's still going to be pretty interesting. I mean, you're looking at RC Anderson now on the screen. He's about 20 seconds back on Ethan Stanley. So we'll see how that gap grows or diminishes, and whether or not the pitting or not pitting under that last caution, what the advantage ends up being. Is, oh, we've got one off track. It's got to be all right, though. That was, I believe, Justin Fortner went off in turn 10.
It's your trouble spot. That car's already sideways on Fortner.
Yep, just steps out on him right at the apex of turn 10 there. Does a good job of gathering it back up, but it got pretty evil on him there through the right-hander.
I missed that Scott Crump was 5 laps down. He is pacing along with Tate Lytle, Ty McIntosh in that group, but he is, Lytle off the track a little bit, having to make a good correction and save as he's kind of getting pressured a little bit by this 5-lap down Scott Crump machine. And Crump obviously had that damage early in the race, but is just out here making some laps at this point. But he's got the speed, he's got the pace right now, I think, to be a top 15 car. He obviously finished in the top 5 back at Zandvoort this season. But today's race obviously has gone awry from the beginning for the driver of the 90 machine.
Yeah, definitely a tough start to the day for Scott Crump. Not the kind of race he was hoping for, and it's got to continue kind of a bad string, really, for Scott Crump. 24th at Auto Club, 28th at Kern County. Nobody's got to be more ready to leave the state of California, virtually speaking, than Scott Crump, I think.
Yeah, he's struggled a little bit, and a lot of that is struggling to put together the finishing positions as well, right? He's had very good pace. He's been pretty solid in terms of where he's run. It's just been been about the finishing for Scott of late, and where it's been a struggle for him.
Yeah, and especially last week was heartbreaking. Him battling for a podium spot, coming onto the back straightaway on the white flag, only to get involved in that huge race-ending melee, and only ending up with that bad finishing result.
So this is Ty McIntosh, and just gets out of shape on the curb there and ends up nose against the fence here, right at the tunnel.
Ty backs it up, and he's able to get going. That is going to drop him in the running order fairly significantly, though. For a guy who needs some points. He's down the order, I think, in terms of the charters, though I do believe with the latest update that we got from league owner Chad Frankenfield, Ty will be keeping his charter no matter what in terms of points scored.
Or you see a Leighton Norgard making his pit stop.
Norgard's in the same area as Ethan Burrell. He got in there. So we go on board with Justin Fortner. And checking out, I think, the progress of the first of the cars to pit under the green flag cycle. That will be Justin Wadsworth. He is now 21st. Yeah, the first car that we believe can make it to the end without pitting is that number 50 car right there, RC Anderson. And he's got a sizable lead on Jonathan Cutlip, who's probably P2 of those cars that can probably make it to the end. I guess, he's kind of stabled out this gap at 20 seconds. My question is when Stanley pits, I don't know if he's going to be able to make up that ground.
It feels like an awful lot of ground to make up for sure, and I'm going to, let's see, who is... Let me take a look at. Let me do some math. I know I always say there will be no math, but I do want to take a look at maybe. Oh, that's gonna be actually really tough math. When did Mr. Fort Wadsworth pit here?
27.
27.
Yep.
So it's looking like roughly, and this is very crude math here, but I would say roughly if that's
36
This is why I
36
don't do
laps to the
math.
end.
Oh no, that's not what I'm
26.
mathing.
Oh,
I think you're mathing the time of the pit stop
Yeah.
minus the lap.
It looks
How much
like
you
it
lost?
had- yeah, between the 2 laps, it looks like probably somewhere in the neighborhood of. It's about 40 seconds.
So he'll have. I mean, if Anderson can keep the gap right here, I mean, Stanley's going to have to make up 20 seconds in less than half the race. Ethan Stanley's pretty dang good. He's got to do that while passing drivers. I don't know if he's that good. Seth Rawls down. Oh, it's Ty McIntosh. You know, you mentioned it last week, Zach. These shift cars and their paint schemes.
Yep. Always changing around sponsors or drivers or car numbers and just really making it miserable on us. It made quick shifts when I said that last week.
Speaking of quick shifts, you should go watch the latest couple of quick shifts. It is on at Bojo Racing on YouTube. We do highly recommend it. You get to kind of hear the driver's takes on some of the stuff. You might even hear a few of these broadcasters analyzing the events and whatnot, but it's always a good time. And despite what old Bojo may ask of us to read in the booth, it's always worth a click because it's a great time. And you know, as a driver myself, I do like being able to listen back to moments that occurred during the race and you know, maybe see what happened if I couldn't. And it's a great time. You get to know the personality of the drivers a little bit too, so it's always fun.
It'll be very interesting to hear what some of these drivers have to say about tonight. Mark Ravillas, did 3A get him?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that's fine. Okay, you do have to. Okay. He was letting one of those shift cars by.
Well, Ty McIntosh, when he went down pit road, he's just stayed there. So the night will get worse for Ty McIntosh. Yes. Back into the 115s. You know, I've talked to Ethan Stanley a couple of times about these road races, about his strategy. He never changes tires. In case you were wondering, that's never, you know, I hadn't brought it up. There's never an issue. These next gen cars just simply don't wear their tires. Stanley ran a 115. He ran a 115 in qualifying. Like the tires just don't wear for this next gen car.
And in fact, they get faster over the course of the run. You really put the tire temp in there and it just gets quicker.
Gilberto Javier Gomera off track once again. He's had a few excursions today, is running 27th, one lap down at the moment. And yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, James. At least from my discussions with Stanley, I would never know, as I never make it very far under green without just losing my car and spinning out and getting the tires all hot and full of dirt. But you know, when it comes to these experienced road racers, a guy like Ethan Stanley is able to get more out of that car as the run goes. And here's a guy who was able to run about as close as we've seen anybody stay to the 91 car, but unfortunately, Gavin Hibbs was about 6 seconds off of Ethan Stanley. And now we will see what that gap is up to R.C. Anderson. Anderson has already bypassed Gavin Hibbs right here. Yeah, Anderson, he's coming out of turn 2. I mean, the gap from Anderson back to Hibbs. That's going to be somewhat indicative of the gap that Stanley's going to have to close down. Hibbs is going through turn 2 right now.
Yeah, that's about 16 seconds.
Yeah, so it's going to be about 10 seconds for Ethan Stanley, which does fit your math, about 40 seconds total. But that's pretty monumental. And I think even RC's losing a little bit of time right now, stuck in there behind Seth Rawls.
Yeah.
Shift cars. I'm gonna have to get Seth to. I could tell Seth give us some brighter colors, a little bit different change between the two cars.
Give somebody a yellow number or something. Anyway, here's RC Anderson making the dive into turn 11 to try and get into the 5th position. He will.
Ty messaged me. He stepped away because he is feeling like Tony Stewart at the Glen.
Oh.
So.
Oh no.
Probably
So
best.
he put into YouTube chat he stopped to not Tony Stewart himself, and I was thinking like Tony Stewart parked on the tire barrier in turn 11. I was not thinking that. So I don't know if I'm better or worse off with the clarification.
Ty had to go to the bathroom. For the uneducated, it's just a fair point. Please don't soil yourself at the behest of virtual car racing. Here comes Ethan Stanley down pit road. 23 laps to go. Stanley's going to have about 10, 15 seconds to make up to go get RC Anderson for this race win. We'll see what the gap is right here. I don't know if he's going to be able to do it.
It's going to heavily remind me of last year's real life race here with Kyle Larson having to run down Chris Buescher on the different strategies.
The issue, of course, for Ethan Stanley is that he's going to have to do it without. Well, if this is live, I mean, RC's not going to be that far up the road.
No, this is pretty close. There he is. There you see Ethan Stanley exiting the
You know-
pits. It's only going to be about 4 or 5 seconds here.
You know, I think in our math, in our hunt to do math, we took into account Justin Watts was probably slapped on 4 fresh tires. It's always tough for a racer to go down pit road and not slap on tires. Ethan Stanley is like completely aware that the tires just don't wear in this next gen car, very confident in that. So we may have been calculating an extra 10 or so seconds where Stanley's just filling it up with fuel.
Yeah, the stop alone was 5 seconds different. Stanley was only a 9-second
Yep.
stop.
Yep. That does turn the race lead over to David Tooker for the time being. Tooker, Frankenfield, and Gable all have to come down pit road. Anderson's the only one with a chance, I think, at this point in the race. 21 laps to go. He's going to need to be really, really solid through here. And you can see, I think when we get back to the line here, you'll see that Stanley's already cut into that gap quite a bit. He's about a second faster right now than RC Anderson, so it may not matter a whole lot. Down pit road comes Corey Abbott for Abbott Motorsports. Rubilis has also come down pit road. Try to keep up with these pit strategies. Hooker hanging it out there. Let's see if David Tooker heads down pit road this time. He will not.
No.
I think at this point he's probably just trying to minimize the time he has to spend on pit road, try to maximize his finishing position.
Yeah, it's going to be a splash and go for those guys, I would imagine. So take the absolute bare minimum if you'll get to the checkered flag and get out in front. I mean, maybe that keeps you in the top 10.
At this point, Mark Rubilis is off the track in turn 2. at this point, it very well could, but it's RC Anderson has caught lap traffic at just the worst time possible here while trying to run and hide from Ethan Stanley. He struggling to get around Josh Adams and Trey Holmes. This is going to open up the door for Stanley here, and the comeback will be pretty well complete.
Yeah, Stanley's just going to take his time. He's got plenty of time to make this inevitable pass.
I mentioned
And that's
Stanley.
such a frustrating situation for RC there, because obviously there are only so many passing opportunities here, but and guys are entitled to run their own race, and certainly the blue flag is not mandatory by any means, but that's you'd like a little bit of cooperation in that situation from a guy that if you're losing a lap at a road course, you're not getting it back.
Yep. I generally try to get out of Dodge immediately when I see those lead lap cars coming, and especially the guys who are fighting for the win here, which in this case, it's going to be these two fighting for the race win. Top three are going to have to hit pit road. Ethan Stanley and RC Anderson have clean track in front, and Ethan Stanley is turning up the volume on RC Anderson. We'll see if 91 can make his way around the 50 here in due time. I think Stanley's just trying to set up which corner he wants to make this pass in at this point. Might use your guys' danger corner there, turn 10, try to set up a pass in turn 11. You think that's what you try to do here, James?
Definitely try to maximize your exit speed off of turn 10. Try to get the best line you can and just get an absolute run heading into the braking zone to turn 11. RC's going a bit defensive. Whoop.
A little bit lock up, yep.
I think from both cars.
Sure looked that way.
RC able to hold off Stanley there for a lap. If there's a guy experienced enough at road course racing, at handling a car, holding somebody back, it's probably this guy. The curb that might have upset the 50. See if Stanley has a run here towards 7. Down the short chute. Stanley's going to enter late. RC is going to cut that off. Stanley will have to wait and bide his time, but we've seen Ethan Stanley in this position before. I mentioned the race with Gavin Hibbs a few seasons ago. And that was a race that Hibbs, I think, ran effectively the line we've seen RC running the last two laps or so. Defensive lines, just trying to make sure that this 91 car couldn't get around. And for a while there, Stanley could get around RC or Gavin Hibbs in that race. But at the end of the race, Stanley did put the bumper to Gavin Hibbs, was able to get away and go on to win. And I think for now, Stanley's going to continue to try to set up RC Anderson, make that pass clean, but I think he'll find a little more contact as we get closer to the end. But for now, I don't think there's any urgency from Ethan Stanley's point of view.
Yeah, he's just vibing at this point. Give another 10 laps, and then things will really start to pick up.
And RC Anderson's doing what he has to. I think Mark's just still sitting there, and Mark's just sitting there watching the race from turn 4.
He needs to be careful here. He's been urged multiple times to leave the racing surface.
And he's been removed from the racing service.
I take us back to another road course race at Montreal where he copped himself a suspension for intentionally crashing right in front of the leader on the last lap. I understand he doesn't like the road courses. I understand he is a little bit of a clown prince here in the elite racing leagues, but let's maybe not do things that might get yourself in further disciplinary action than what you've already experienced here.
I see what you did there.
What did I do?
I am actually
Clown
curious.
Prince.
Oh, okay. I did like that. That's a good name for Mark. Yeah, that's about right. He's a beloved figure, but the clown nature, the goofball aspect, very present. We're going to step away from the battle for the lead for a second, and of course, this will probably be when it ramps up. Here's Harrison Talon coming off pit road and encountering the turn 1 gremlins we've seen from a few drivers today.
Oh.
Back to the de facto battle for the lead. Remember, David Tooker, Chad Frankenfield, Ryan Gable, about 9 seconds, about 14 seconds up the road here from RC Anderson and Ethan Stanley, but they will all have to pit. That means this is probably the battle for the win. Stanley's been held up for sure by RC Anderson to this point, but I think it is a matter of time. Turn 10, Anderson defends low. Let's see if Stanley can make the move on the outside. This will be a very impressive pass if he can make it happen. That's a tough corner to make that happen on.
It is.
Yeah, you see the outside line kind of prevail at other parts of the track. We saw with the battle with Fody and I forget who it was when they were side by side. Yeah, Tooker when they were side by side through 2 through 4, but it just doesn't quite work in turn 11 just because you're at such a much lower rate of speed coming out of the hairpin that the tires are being asked to do so much on all that throttle application that you just can't quite get the power down like the way you need to get that pull on the outside. But you don't really have to worry about that with like turns 2 through 4 because you're already at a much higher rate of speed.
That's good analysis, and you talking about that throttle input and the taxing of the tires. Ethan Stanley's dropped back a little bit right here, but do you think he's dropping back in order to kind of build up the big run again, to maybe make a bigger move at RC Anderson here?
Yeah, and probably just maybe trying to cool the tires a little bit, try to not overwork them too hard. And also when you do this, at times you can lull the guy you're battling with in a false sense of security. Let them get that gap, kind of take a deep breath, and then start to eke back and make the car ahead go, uh-oh. Obviously, I highly doubt that's going to be a really big effect on someone like RC Anderson, especially since he's already... Well, I'm not going to finish that statement at the risk of a commentator's curse.
Down pit road, I believe that's Gavin Higgins. In car 13, it will be. He will make his final pit stop of the race. He's taking tires, and that just goes to show you, right? Ethan Stanley didn't take any tires. He's relying on those older tires, but you see these guys up front, Tooker, Frankenfield, Gable, they're going to come down pit road, take a splash of fuel, I believe. Higgins, a little bit inexperienced, taking some tires. I don't know that that's necessary at this point in the race.
Yeah.
Oh, RC just blew turn 11. Ethan's going to be side by side with him coming off turn 11. They're side by side on the front straightaway. That might have been the move. Stanley's going to be right there now. Here comes Ethan Stanley looking to the I guess that's the outside approaching turn 2. Thinks better of it. Falls back into line behind RC Anderson. Now Anderson loose off turn 4. Here comes Stanley, but he gets a piece of the grass. That doesn't slow down that 91 car at all. Here comes Stanley again through the short chute. Anderson playing a little bit of defense, but Stanley dive bombs it late. Brakes really hard to avoid contact with RC Anderson, but that move seems to be the move Stanley thinks is going to work. He's made it a couple of times to kind of jab the brakes to avoid from spinning that 50 car out, but they're approaching this lap car of Gavin Higgins on those fresh tires. Higgins pulls aside.
Yeah, he gave way there going into turn 9, communicated that over to voice chat, and then gave up the racing line.
Ryan Gable down pit road. Here
Oh.
comes Stanley into
Ooh.
turn 11. Anderson does give a little bit of room. Stanley's going to be side by side with Anderson down the front straightaway, but Anderson's able to close it off again.
Tate Lytle's around in turn 7.
I tell you, RC might have to really start guarding that inside line in 7 and 11. Like, Ethan has almost caught him sleeping a couple of times these last couple laps. RC was very lucky to kind of stay ahead, but his luck's going to start running out here.
Chris Wright's going to make a move to the inside and then get a piece of Tate Lytle. Anderson
Poor Tate has had himself a night, hasn't he?
Yeah, started from the very back and ends up around here. He will still be able to finish the race without pitting, so that may still yield him some extra spots as Paul Mikolajczyk heads off the track in front of the leaders to give them room. Anderson, he did exactly what you said that last run through turn 7, James. He cut that inside lane, was able to keep Ethan from making any dive bombs late. Ethan's going to make another one here. He's going to get to the inside. That might be it right there. Ethan Stanley to the inside. The slightest bit of door contact to RC Anderson. But they're still side by side. Anderson's fighting back.
Oh! Contact at the start-finish line.
Yeah, Stanley's going to have the preferred line here up the hill towards turn 1, and he's going to slide the right front tire, but that's not going to be enough for Anderson to bypass Ethan Stanley back through to the de facto lead on strategy, P3 on the track, while David Tucker and Chad Frankenfield still have to come to pit road. That was, there's 2 cars crashed here in turn.
Oh my
in the turn right there. Yep, Frankenfield and a Leighton Norgard. Now that's P2. That was the 2 leaders there. We'll have to see what happened to Chad Frankenfield. Anderson's not letting Stanley get away right now on my screen. Let's take a look. Looks like Norgard's going to get it sideways here. He might just get a piece of Chad Frankenfield. Yeah.
Oh, that.
I don't know what Norgard's supposed to do. Anderson's going to try and make a move to the inside of Stanley in 11. He's not going to be able to get there. What should Leighton have done there? He's sitting in the racing line. He knows guys are coming down the way.
Don't move. Don't move.
The issue is that he tried to throw it in reverse and get out of the way. The problem is for the cars behind, like Chad, is that you see the car there, you're already committed to the move the area you think you have to go. And Chad wasn't able to see a Leighton back up. And by the time he realizes what's happening, he's already committed. He can't go any farther to the inside. He can't do anything. He's just stuck on that path. And where a Leighton was, I think if he just stayed put, I think it would have been all right, and Chad would have been able to get by without any issue. But the fact that he kind of threw it in reverse and ended up driving right back into the path of Chad just caused that whole schmozzle.
Like that. Yeah, I think that's good advice for any potential young drivers watching. If you're sideways in front of the field, just stay put. They'll find their way around you, and things will clear up so you can get going again. Up front, while he's still up here, let's give a shout to David Tucker. This has been an excellent run for the car, the driver of the 19 car, coming off a top 5 finish last week at Kern. I think he's... What's up?
I'm going to talk stupid here.
Do it.
Oh, never mind. I'm going to talk about Matthew Weeks spinning in the S's. He may have had help from the 15 car.
Oh. Well, here's the first incident that we will be able to get to replay. Scott Crump. Oh, no.
Okay, we're good.
Got it on the binders. Good awareness. That car's 5 laps down. You don't need to be taking out any lead lap cars. And Scott able to get on the brakes and avoid that carnage. Let's go back and see what happened to Matthew Weeks. Yeah, it's up here at the top of the hill. Oh, no. Well,
Let's see here.
I think it probably was the 15 car.
Yeah, I imagine that 15 car is still pretty not happy with that prior incident.
No.
Oof.
And then Rawls is going to get into him, finish him off.
And see, this is where... Yeah, so I did not catch the first... William White just handed out 2 tallies. I did not catch the first number, but the second
12
number
and 15.
was 12 and 15. So 12 obviously for the incident in turn 4, 15 for that. Here's the thing with... Obviously, you're frustrated if you're Chad Frankenfield, but you can't let that ruin somebody else's night.
Right. Jesse Racimus is off the track, but I believe he's just letting the leaders kind of drive through. Yeah, I'm with you there, Zach. I think if you... It is something that I'm having to learn is I can't take my frustrations or anything that happens to my night. I can't let that boil into the rest of the race. If I can let it go and try and make things better for what I can control, then I can recover. But now Chad Frankenfield, I believe, is going to be facing a points penalty because he's had a lot of tallies in a row and in a lot of races in a row.
Well, the other thing that I hate to bring it up, but you can go back, you can watch. Okay, well now I'm trying really hard to bite my tongue because Chad Frankenfield just threw the mother of all blocks on Seth Rawls. So now we have the recreation of 2001 with Tony Stewart, Robbie Gordon, and Jeff Gordon through the S's. This is just some really...
Oh, Chad's going around. Chad's getting spun right now. Tate Lytle got a piece of Chad right there, and I think the drivers around him are seeing what's going on and have had enough. Matthew Weeks actually got back ahead of Chad Frankenfield after the spin.
I mean, this is literally the recreation of 2001. Chad Frankenfield just, with a car that probably isn't driving that well, driving over his head. I'm just going to call it what it is. And then he's got to pay the price right here. And really, I don't even know, that might have been netcode. There may have been some door-to-door contact. But again, you've put yourself in this position because you're driving over your head, because you're mad at Leighton Norgard for doing the same thing you did at Zandvoort to, I believe it was Jesse Racimus. At some point, some accountability has to kick in, and you have to control your emotions behind the wheel. This is a complete meltdown from the driver of the 15 car, and I'm sure he'll blame everybody but himself for it after the race.
Mm-hmm. And it's great to lead that into what I want to say here is that if he just composed himself, right?
Yep.
Brandon Norgard, you have to pit. You've got some damage. Compose yourself. Go out there. Make your passes. You're faster than those guys. They're out on really old tires. Make your passes. You finish in the top 10 and have a good day. And you know what? Yeah, you got into a Leighton Norgard. It stunk, but it wasn't going to cost you the race.
He still had a chance to finish in the top 10. He probably wasn't going to with the damage to his car, but he had a chance. And now there's a non-zero chance. Obviously, we'll see what... It's hard to say from those replays if there will be any further action, but that could be his second tally. I don't know. Here's David Tooker coming to pit road. What I was going to say before all of that was there was a 14-second gap there. I don't think the math worked out, but I was curious if David Tooker was going to try to go ultra fuel conserve and try to stretch it. Clearly, he has not. I never got a chance to speculate that, and here he is on pit road.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a whole lot you can do with fuel saving in this car.
I don't think he had a chance at it, but I was curious to see if he'd try it, and obviously the gap went only from 14 to 12. He didn't, unless that was him fuel saving. It wasn't enough, clearly, pitting with 5 laps to go.
Yeah, Tooker down pit road, but I think Tooker's going to remain in the top 10 after all of this, and it'll be a good day. And there's Norgard off the track. Oh, another one off the track right in front of Chad Frankenfield.
Oh boy.
That was right in front of Ethan Stanley. I think it was Racimus.
Somebody said, "Are you all right, Jesse?" on voice chat, so I believe you are correct.
Yep.
We'll get a look here. Oh, so what? This is. I want nothing to do with the leader being behind me, and my night's not being that. That's. Oh no! It actually got loose on him.
Yeah, it snapped
and
just
the right front.
Yeah, it took him straight into the tires. That is rough.
That's a shame.
He was a lap down, about to go 2 down in 24th place. So not having a particularly good night was Jesse Racimus there, and unfortunately goes ahead and ends up wadding up the 70 car here to end the night slightly early. After the pit stop, David Tooker has... I got to let my iRacing cycle me through here, but I believe he's going to fall to 3rd.
And hey, considering the strategy worked for him. The strategy worked for him. It gets him out in 3rd. It gets him in front of Gavin Hibbs. We'll see if he's able to hang on to that or not. That's a great outcome for David Tooker for the roll of the dice he had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great outcome for him and R.C. Anderson. Both of them are going to get way bigger finishing positions here than...
And Ryan Gable 6. So that strategy, it didn't not work.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they were not involved in an incident. And that's going to be Chad's initial frustration when he goes back and looks at this race. He's got to see David Tooker. He's got to see Ryan Gable and say, I could have finished somewhere in that window if I hadn't been involved in that incident. I get it. But everything after that is in your control.
Mm-hmm. It's absolutely right. And Chad's paying our bills, but he pays our bills to talk about what we see out here, and we're not going to mince words when it comes to any driver, especially if we see one that's making very clear mistakes that we can dictate an alternative to. And it's helped my racing personally, where look, I've gotten into some stuff and it could have ruined my night. It really could have. I've made mistakes and I could kick myself when I'm down, and I've gotten into issues, and the change I've been able to make is, look, I'm just going to control out front what I can control out front, and Chad could use that right now.
Yeah, and
anyway, yep.
And I don't want to, for the same reasons that Dave just brought up, I don't want to go too harsh either, but another thing you have to stop and consider is that if you're Chad, is you're also the league owner, and there's a certain amount of respect that needs to be shown from the upper management of a league. I'm a co-owner of a league myself. I've been there, I've been out on track and had some incidents and reactions that I probably shouldn't have. And it's one thing if you're just a normal competitor, but it's tough for the other cars on track and the people watching the broadcast when they see some conduct that might not necessarily be the most becoming from the league owner in the middle of the race. And that's something you really have to consider if you're Chad, if you're in his shoes in this scenario. It's you're competitive, you're competing hard. Us race car drivers, we don't handle things as we should all the time, but you still have to maintain some level of composure no matter what if you're going to be the league owner and competing out on track.
Yeah, you're new here, James. I know you haven't been around the Elite Racing League for a while, but all you're saying, stuff that a lot of us have told Chad, and we never seen it. Anyway, 2 laps to go. Coming to white flag for Ethan Stanley. Another dominant performance by driver 91, barring a catastrophic computer failure here. He should bring himself home his 5th consecutive Elite Belly Up Sports Cup Series road course win. That's just extending the record. Am I correct, Zach?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah. Hey, he's been really, really good at these things, and obviously, the driver of the 91 car is one of the best at road courses. I would say on the iRacing service, I've never seen anybody quite as good as him. He'll moonlight over into other leagues and win those races too, and it's not close. No matter who he's racing against, we've seen him beat pros. We've seen him beat these regulars, the winningest drivers in this series. A lot of guys used to dominate these races before Ethan Stanley got here, like R.C. Anderson and David Tooker and Tyler Fody, and he takes them out. He takes them every single time. It's really been remarkable. It's been a remarkable run. that Ethan Stanley is on right now, and even the best efforts by an RC Anderson there, with the strategy, with blocking, trying to drive defensively, none of it was enough. And one more corner for Ethan Stanley here to claim victory in the Bojo's quick shifts at Sonoma. Through turn 11 comes Ethan Stanley. He will drive it off turn 11 and claim his 5th consecutive road course victory in this Belly Up Sports Cup Series. That is his 3rd win on the season. He won the Daytona 500 at the beginning of the year, as well as the prior road course race this season at Zandvoort. And now he will win this quick shifts at Sonoma. RC Anderson will capture 2nd. David Tooker will finish 3rd. Gavin Hibbs 4th. Tyler Fody 5th in this race. And Stanley will, I believe, I don't know about lock up, but he's going to put a very strong claim on the regular season championship. Zach, you might be able to correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe he's finished outside the top 10 this season.
Ethan Stanley's worst finish this season was 8th at Michigan.
Yeah. And when you're having 8th place is a bad night, you're having a very strong season. And, this might even be a more dominant season than we saw from him last year when he won 6 races.
Of course, having to wait on the results here while...
Let's play the Bojo ad while we're waiting.
Sure.
Let's do it.
Have you ever just forgot to hold the brakes during a wreck? Are they just not able to pronounce your name in a race?
Paul Michelager.
Have you ever been wrecked by Chad? Hi, I'm Ray Bracey, and I'm here to share with you quick shifts. Watch all the highlights, lowlights, and other shenanigans in the top racing leagues, such as the Elite Racing League, and... But don't just take my word for it.
Before quick shifts, I was depressed. I wasn't able to relive my favorite moments from each race. Now with quick shifts, I can go out there and listen to all my favorite banter from the race while seeing all the crashes and good racing once again.
I don't remember life before quick shifts. I had to listen to Cameron Proke and Ty Mac and Cheese recap Oscar every week in the 3-Wide TV booth, but now, thanks to quick shifts, I actually enjoy my Oscar recaps.
So try quick shifts. You suffered through it one time, why not suffer through it again?
Side effects of quick shifts include constipation, diarrhea, dizziness, dry mouth, abnormal heart rhythms, internal bleeding, numb tongue, unfiltered honesty, loud hiccups, laughing uncontrollably, mandatory dancing, midnight munchies, blue urine, red urine, no urine, and many more.
Welcome back to the Bojo's quick shifts at Sonoma. And we'll take a look at the running order here, the finishing order. Top 18 on your screen right now. Ethan Stanley did capture our race win. I went through the top 5 already. Ryan Gable finishes 6th with Jonathan Cutlip 7th. Ethan Burrell 8th, Justin Wadsworth 9th, and Tate Lytle rounds out the top 10. I'll have Dave drop it to the next list while we bring up David Tooker, so you guys can see all of the results on screen here. And let's see if we can talk to David Tooker here after that 3rd place run. So, David, you led a lot of laps. You made a strategy call there. Ultimately, it wasn't enough. Was there ever a point at which you felt like you could maybe try to save some fuel and last to the finish there without pitting?
Not really. I felt like it was just kind of whatever you picked, it was your strategy. I was planning on pitting before that first stage ended, so I could be at least a little bit cycled ahead, but I didn't time it right with the pit lane closing, and that kind of just made me finish in first stage points, and just trying to survive. Now that we were running with stage cautions, it makes it a little interesting on the starts. I was just trying to get ahead of the guys that were going to be my competition as early as possible. And I think that was kind of the toughest thing, is once we got through those first few laps and finally got into a rhythm, I was able to lock in and run some of my most consistent laps I've ran all day. I didn't really get much practice time as much as I wanted, but regardless, I knew coming into this race I was kind of on the back foot, but for a 3rd place, not really having much practice time, I'll definitely take it. So, and not to shed light on Stanley's performance. He has been dominant, just on both ends of this series, oval and road course. So, and to see he's competing with one of the top, Blake Reynolds, one of the top guys on this simulator is really awesome to see. To know we're all really close to him it's really cool. So very happy with this third place.
Of course, we go from the road course here at Sonoma. Next time out, it is the World 600. That's a race you've won twice. How are you feeling going into the next edition of that Crown Jewel event?
Well, Zach, right now I'm feeling quite honestly exhausted, so that race can wait at least a couple more weeks. No, this track is severely physically demanding. I mean, even with the stage cautions, you get a little bit of a break, but that was pretty much a 50 lap run all the way to the end, and this is arguably one of the most difficult road courses because of just how the curbs are, and you essentially have to be perfect everywhere. Or one small mistake throws you off. So just the mental focus it took to run as well as us as we did, it was kind of just, oh, I'm exhausted and I can feel it in my brain. I'm definitely spent from staring at a screen, but no, I'm feeling confident. I always feel confident going to Charlotte. That's one of my favorite ovals on the sim, and it's just one of those races where you don't really care about what anybody else is doing for, I'd say 75, maybe 85% of the race, and then that last 50 to 100 laps kicks in, and the race really starts, and I just end up finding myself in really good positions at the end of the race, whether it be with pit strategy or tire saving or whatever the case is. I've gotten pretty lucky on a few of those Cook 600s, but to say the confidence is through the roof with the 2 wins there, I'm feeling great about it, and hopefully we can get a win in this new scheme. I'm loving this Hot Wheels scheme. Thank you, John, over at JD Designs. He painted a beautiful car, so hopefully we can put this one in victory lane too.
Yeah, Tucker. You've you've gotten everything out of the way for us here, so I'll just take you to the playoff picture. Obviously, only a couple of races to go until that playoff starts. World 600 and Talladega, I believe. So, how do you plan to make your move here as we approach the playoff? I believe you're in now by a pretty healthy margin on points, but obviously with a couple of a long distance race and a wild card race, there's a lot that can happen in those last two.
Yeah, definitely. I think our goal is to just be consistent. It doesn't have to be wins. I'm kind of in that position of I have that buffer, but I don't necessarily want to rely on it. So I think going into Charlotte, just kind of locked in. Don't worry about anybody else's races. Just run my own thing, and see where I end up. Charlotte, I definitely have a good backing there going there. Dega, I've had a shot at winning Dega last year and just didn't play out that way, but I feel like my plate racing has definitely improved a lot too, so I'm feeling pretty confident going into Dega and having as many partners as I do going into that race. That's going to play a huge factor. So I think we're feeling confident for sure, but we're not settling for any means. We're going to try to go win as many races as we can and build those stage points, and that's honestly the biggest thing, is just being there for the stages. I think I've been overlooking that for the past few seasons of how important those stage points really are, and this season I've worked really hard to, even though my finishes may have not recorded my performances, but my stages I feel like have been a lot better this year. So looking forward to one, being there at Charlotte, one of my favorite tracks, but just the chaos of Dega, I love it. So looking forward to it.
I got you, man. Well, any shout outs here before we send you off? Obviously you did give some already, but any more?
Yeah, everybody at Elite, everybody that makes this thing run. Chad was having crazy night tonight, but he keeps it together for all of us to put this on and put on these good races, and hopefully we can have some even better races in the future. I know our long distance races go pretty well, so hopefully that's a good one for the broadcast. But like I said, everybody at Elite, all of our admin, all of our drivers, you guys up in the booth especially, the amount of work you guys put in to make this as professional as you do, I really appreciate it. And every one of our fans, all of my family members, they all watch back these races and really enjoy the quality you guys put on. So huge thank you to you guys, everybody at Belly Up for sponsoring us these past couple of years, Worldwide Technology Raceway, Blue Egg, 4D Racewear, and JD Designs, as always. That's the man right there. Has painted some beautiful cars for me over the past 4 years, so very happy to represent him in his company, and that's pretty much it. I think I nailed everything this time.
Gotcha. Well, congratulations on the P3, David, and we'll see you next week.
Alrighty, boys. Thank you.
That's P3 David Tucker. Let's grab the runner-up finisher tonight, RC Anderson, and RC, you made a pit strategy call early in this one. You battled Ethan Stanley pretty hard, but in the end, he was just a little too much for you. Take me through your night and maybe what you could have done differently out there.
Not going off on the first lap would have helped a lot. I tried way too hard to put myself in track position ahead of him just because I knew what his pace was. And just took a little too much out of the first corner. I just said, screw it. I locked him up, went straight just to make sure I didn't take out anybody else. Rejoined. I knew the stage yellow was coming up, pitted for that to get tires and just see what I could do. That second yellow was a blessing to get full of fuel. And with that, I would only have to save like a lap or so. But depending on what pace I was running, I couldn't tell how much fuel I had to save. So I was just trying to stay within range of Stanley with where he'd be out behind me after he pitted. I think I was like 20 seconds back and like 6th or 7th when he pitted. I saw him pit out with like 3 seconds behind me. I was like, this is gonna be a battle. I did the best I could. I mean, I think he spent 12 laps behind me with me defending him and just tried to do enough. He finally got by. And I was pushing really hard. I think I got into the back of him a couple times and then got sideways. And I looked over my fuel number and I was like, man, okay, I need to start saving fuel again. And I was like, I'll just collect the second place.
RC, this season we're kind of seeing on a part-time basis here in the Elite Cup Series, especially when it comes to these road courses. Is that almost a blessing or a curse that you don't have to worry about points? You can just try to figure out the best way to go out and win these races?
Well, on the contrary, I think I've made now 4 out of the 8 starts, and before this one, I think I was 25th in points. So even though I had the win, I know the win doesn't count for anything. So my goal is to top 5 it for this one, Charlotte and Dega, and hopefully point my way in. Okay. And I've already looked at the schedule, and I'm here for all the playoff races. I'm in town, so that's kind of the goal right now. Is just to collect. I'm okay with the second. Let's just collect really good points, and let's see if we can get ourselves in the playoffs.
Well,
very interesting. That does take away my question about the chase for the playoffs here, RC. So I'll just throw it up to you. Any final thoughts on this one? But then any shout outs for us here before we send you off tonight?
Just congrats to Stanley. Good win, and he's so fast on road courses. I really need to start practicing more now on road courses to make sure I can compete. And old pro edge squad, edge pro. I mean, honestly, I can't remember what banner I'm under for the Cup Series because we're all such close friends and I'll run under different teams. But all those guys are amazing. And then you guys up here in the booth, you guys do a fantastic job. You guys have no idea how many times I go back and watch the replay after and just see everything that happened that I didn't get to see being in the car. And then Chad, I mean, he deals with all of us. How many of us there's there between 5, 6 leagues? There's I don't know, at least 100 of us between all of them, and he deals with us and gives us a place to come race in the afternoon. So even though it can be frustrating or it can be really highs when you win, I really enjoy being here and having the chance to race with you guys. And then Lucas Oil School of Racing, they're on every single one of my cars. They will be until somebody else decides they want to sponsor it. But yeah, I think that's all I have. But congrats, Stanley. He raced me really, really clean, and I did my damnedest to try to keep him fended off. But there's no way I was going to be able to do that for 25 laps.
Gotcha. Well, congratulations on P2 RC. We're excited to see what you got for us at Charlotte and Talladega. Definitely a lot of points to be gained at Charlotte with the stages there. So congratulations. We'll see you next week and hopefully throughout the playoffs as a championship contender.
Yeah, we'll see you guys.
That's the runner-up finisher, RC Anderson. Let's grab the race winner, Ethan Stanley, bring him to the booth. And Ethan, congratulations on the race win tonight. 3rd one of the year. Seemed pretty chill from your end, except for when you had to get around that 50 car. So take me through your night there. And if you thought maybe 5 road course wins in this series in a row was maybe on the fritz there when you had to fall back into traffic.
Oh yeah, 5 is pretty crazy. Yeah, just the I don't know if it's the alternate strategy or the primary, but different strategy from RC. Didn't pit on the stage, and it's really rolling the dice. You don't know how much faster guys will be on new tires. But luckily, it wasn't too bad on the old tires. They didn't really start falling off until late. Got to RC after I pit and was kind of thinking this might be the race for the win, which it ended up being. Just RC had to save a bit after I passed him, but he put up a hell of a fight, and that was pretty hard to get around him.
So now, continuing the road course winning streak, you'll have. I guess that wraps up. Oh no, there's the Roval to start the playoffs. Do we make it a sweep on the year? Do you punch that ticket to the round of 10 there at the Roval?
I'm thinking that's where the streak ends. The Roval's kind of my arch nemesis when it comes to road courses. Not a big fan of that place, but I'll try my best. Maybe practice a little bit, and maybe number 6 is on the cards.
Yeah, you definitely need a lot of practice here because you only won by 7 seconds, so it's starting to like your gaps are starting to come down. You better get on it here. But overall, man, I mean, congratulations on another really dominant performance, obviously, and we talked about the playoffs already. So you got anybody to shout out here? I know you're not a huge fan of the interviews and the interview process, but we appreciate you coming up here and giving us your time here after these races.
Yeah, big shout out to Blue Egg being the sponsor. 5 wins in a row with them on the road courses is pretty crazy. Big shout out to the guys at Lake Norman. We all had pretty good nights. Fody made the long run work at the end there too. Didn't have to make a stop. Big shout out to you guys up in the booth. Always love watching these races back. Big shout out to Chad and Will and all the admins. And big shout out to RC. That was a really fun battle.
Gotcha. Well, congratulations, Ethan, on another win, and I'm sure we'll see you up at the front next week in the Coke City or the World 600. So we'll talk to you next week, and good luck then and throughout the playoffs, buddy.
Yep. See you around, guys.
That was the quick shifts at Sonoma. Any final thoughts from you guys there tonight? I'll start with you, Zach.
Well, certainly there's got to be a lot of post-race conversation. I feel like we've been saying that a lot lately, unfortunately. Hopefully cooler heads will prevail for 600 miles next week, and we'll have a nice, good, clean World 600. Otherwise, it could be a really long night. And congrats again to Ethan Stanley. And just so you know, David, Ryan Jeffers is now on waivers in our fantasy baseball league. I know you're excited.
Oh, I'm super stoked. I'm ready for opening day. It's going to be fun. James, any final thoughts about tonight's race?
Yeah, there were definitely some interesting moments that we saw throughout, but it was still a hotly contested race. Like I mentioned earlier, it basically kind of became last year's race where we're watching Larson run down Chris Buescher. We saw that with Stanley and RC, and it was cool to see RC hold him off for so long. And all things considered, it was an incredibly clean race. There was a lot of some bumping, but nothing too crazy. So it's always cool when you see such a hard battle for the race win, but you don't see anything that you're like, I don't know about that. It was just, good, hard, clean battling. That's what we all want to see.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I would tell you, I'm not entirely sure a whole lot of these drivers agree with you on the clean race that we saw, but at the end of the day,
clean up front.
Right.
The rest, yeah, but it was clean up front. There was some clean.
Yep. So with that, for the Belly Up Sports Cup Series, that was the Bojo's Quick Shifts at Sonoma. For Dave Huckleberry, David Westergreen, James Watson, and Zach Evans, we will see you guys next week for the World 600 an hour earlier on Wednesday night. And everybody have a good night. We'll see you next week.